Hello and welcome to episode 281 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And Bill, and we had a reaction to the show last week, so I'll let Jason address the reaction.
Yes, my friend Fred, who's a good friend and a good listener, he did not think my Saints pick made a lot of sense, but I sort of explained it to him on the phone, but just in case other people reacted the same way. I would say this. The NFC seems pretty wide open to me. I don't think there's any dominant teams. The Rams are coming off the Super Bowl win, but Matthew Stafford seems like he's got some elbow issues. The Saints won 9 games last year, all while we had the coach, with one foot out the door. Taysom Hill was your starting quarterback most of the year. Michael Thomas was out. Alvin Kamara was out. You got Thomas back. You got Olave. You got Landry on offense. You got the Jameis, who was looking very good post LASIK. You have a coach that's been there for 14 years alongside, or 13, however long. He's been there as long as Sean Payton's been there, so it's a pretty easy transition. And they have one of the best defenses in football and a great home field advantage. One of the loudest places I've ever been. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think they're not only going to win the division, which we'll get to later, but I could easily see them winning the Super Bowl. And I know Jameis is the reason you would say, huh? But, that was my thought process.
Well, yeah, let's just save it for when we talk about our predictions, because I think we're both pretty high on the Saints.
Yeah.
We did not drink the Buccaneers Kool-Aid this year.
No, especially if, as rumored, Tom Brady might be doing the Masked Singer right now.
Which I still can't believe, but we'll talk about that.
I still can't believe, no.
So I'll start off talking about Little League, because like I said, I really enjoy it. First of all, I pat myself on the back for predicting the winner of the Little League Girls Softball World Series. I said Texas would win. Texas won. And then I said the best teams in the Little League World Series were Texas, Pennsylvania, and Hawaii. And I think it's going to come down. Texas beat Pennsylvania. It was a really good game, and then it got out of hand. And then, but Texas looks really good, but I don't know if they look as good as Hawaii. So I could see Hawaii and Texas in the playoffs for the U.S. crown. Canada beat Japan, and I've not seen Chinese Taipei yet. I've seen Curacao, and they're good, but they're not. They're beating Italy now 1-0 in the 6th inning, and Italy won their first game in, I think, 50 years, which is a great story in and of itself.
Yeah.
But it's been fun to watch. Tonight is the MLB game where the Orioles and the Red Sox play. They'll come see the Little Leaguers this afternoon, and then they'll be the game. So it's interesting. That's always fun. I think it's one of the few things that MLB does really, really well. This is the Field of Dreams. They still have a lot of other improvements they can make, but this isn't the forum for that. But I've just really enjoyed my Little League World Series like I do every year.
Yeah. Well, before we get into our predictions, we're going to have our Steeler Minute right now, because the Steelers once again won a preseason game against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, through 2 preseason games, I'm still not fully endorsing the pick, but I do think that Kenny Pickett is the best quarterback on the Steelers roster. I think he moves well.
I'm in agreement with that.
He moves really well in the pocket. I think he reads the defenses and throws anticipatory throws better than the other two. I'm sure Mitch Trubisky overall is a better athlete, and Mason Rudolph has looked pretty good, and he's got the most experience in the unit. But I just see something in Kenny Pickett where I'm like, if they're going to do anything this year, and that's a big if, but, they've got a pretty solid defense, the secondary side, even though they got Minka back there. And it does come down, which is pretty sad, because this is the 3rd season in a row where the offensive line is going to be a glaring weakness?
And, I think it's more of a glaring weakness because we were kind of under the impression that they had addressed that.
At least a little bit.
You and I were both critical that they didn't draft one of the great offensive linemen early on for the 2nd year in a row. Like, I watched the Chiefs play this week, and I watched Creed Humphrey playing center. And that was stupid that they didn't pick Creed Humphrey when they had a chance. They passed on Creed Humphrey. And he looks amazing. He's moving people like a road grader. And we're still trying to figure out who our center is going to be.
And again, love Najee, both as a player and a person. He seems like a good dude. And like I said, Kenny Pickett, I think he is the best quarterback on the roster. But you got to be able to move the ball and block and do stuff on the defensive and the offensive line, and it looks really bad again. And
Yeah,
even the
I
strengths that
agree.
even the guys we thought like Dotson and Moore have also looked bad. Like just collectively and individually, they've all looked really, really bad. So that's our Steeler minute. So
Yeah, it's that offensive line is sad.
it really is.
I have something I want to say about MLB.
Okay.
A lot of people question the Brewers trading Josh Hader, their closer, to the Padres.
Right.
And since he's been traded to the Padres, he's lost several games. His ERA is over 16.
That's really high.
And now they're doing bullpen by committee after having given up a lot for this closer. So, interesting. Maybe I guess the Brewers knew more than we thought they did.
Yeah. I don't know if it was numbers or analytics or just the guy in the building, but clearly, there was something there.
Yep.
Well, I guess as we continue our downward spiral, we should start with the AFC South predictions.
Yes.
I think far and away the worst in the
Absolutely
AFC.
a hideous division.
Just hideous. Do you want to start with your number 4?
Yeah. And it's not Jacksonville.
No.
It's an interesting division. But I just don't. No, I'll start at the top. I will start at the top.
Okay. I think we both have the same team
It's
at
the
the top.
Colt runaway.
Colts the runaway, yes.
Matty Ryan will be very happy this year. You got fantastic running back.
You do. You got a great offensive line anchored by Quentin Nelson, maybe the best guard in football.
Yeah, so I just think they're going to run away with it. I don't think it's going to be close. I would probably say that Tennessee will finish second, maybe. Although I'm going to pick Jacksonville second.
I like that pick.
And I'm going to pick Jacksonville second because I think it's hard to evaluate them last year because it was so dysfunctional.
Incredibly
Right.
dysfunctional.
Incredibly dysfunctional.
Maybe the weirdest coaching, maybe the weirdest coach I've ever experienced in my lifetime, I think, as far as the stuff he was doing and the way papers reporting, between kicking kickers and skipping out on practices and staying in his bar,
Yeah. I don't know. But I'm going to go with Jacksonville. I like, the defense looks up front. I mean, you got 3 number 1 picks
yeah.
in your front 7. I mean, and one of them's the number one pick.
And he looks good.
So, and he looks good. I think Trevor Lawrence will have a really nice year. I think ETN, who didn't miss the whole last year, is going to be really good. I don't know about the receiving core. I think, they might pick up somebody else in the waiver wires and everything that might be better than what they have. But I think that they're going to be, I think they're a solid number 2.
Yeah, and to
So
build
then
on
I'll go
that,
with Tennessee for number 3. I think they're trending the wrong direction unless they're already planning to rebuild with Malik Willis and after having traded A.J. Brown, which, he had a great year. I couldn't see trading A.J. Brown,
no.
but they did. And you got Derrick Henry coming back off an injury, and he's taken a lot of hits.
He's had 2,000 carries, or 2,000 touches, I think, in the last 3.5 seasons or something like that. Just a ridiculous number. I know that sounds outlandish, but I read that somewhere that it's an incredible amount of carries. It's the number of carries you want to not have any more carries from. And yeah. And back to Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence was the highest rated passer since Andrew Luck. And he was the highest rated since Peyton Manning coming out of the draft. Has all the physical tools.
Yeah.
And, just from watching them play last night, Marvin Jones II is a very solid receiver.
Yeah, they need something to go with him.
Yeah, and I know they're taking a lot of heat for the amount of money they paid Christian Kirk, but Christian Kirk is good. Christian
He's
Kirk.
good. I don't think he's. I definitely think they overpaid.
Oh, without a doubt. Like he
And I think
upset.
there was. I do think there was better options than Christian Kirk.
Oh yeah,
But we'll see what they do. But I still think they could pick up. And as we talked about the Steelers receivers, maybe they pick up one of the guys the Steelers let go.
it's very possible.
Because the Steelers have an unbelievable depth of people that can catch the ball and run after the catch.
Yeah, yeah. I think Tennessee. I know Malik Willis was a third-round pick, but they seem very high on him. He's looked pretty good in preseason. They're going very hard. You lost A.J. Brown. Like we said, Derrick Henry coming off an injury. And Derrick Henry's in that sad age for a running back, too.
Right. And Tannehill will get hurt.
He will get hurt.
And so you will see Malik Willis this year. So, but I think they're a third place team. I think they're trending down, and they're going to have to trend down before they can trend back up.
And then the Texans, Damian Pierce looks like a nice running back. But it's hard to imagine Davis Mills is the guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Davis is the quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously the best option you have. But the best option that you have doesn't mean he's an NFL quarterback, right?
No, it doesn't.
He just means that's what you have.
Yeah, sometimes you're in a small town and you have to eat McDonald's. Like, there's nowhere else to go.
The thing I think is the most interesting thing about the upcoming Texans season
Is week
is
11.
it might be where Deshaun Watson makes his debut.
Yeah, that's a crazy one because you'd almost think both from the NFL standpoint and even Deshaun Watson's camp that they might be
You
like,
wouldn't want that. You would have opted for 12 games instead of 11.
yeah, be like, let's just do a 12-game suspension and you come back the week after because,
Yeah.
I mean, it was already going to be a big enough story that's hanging over the season. It's already big enough that he's coming back when he comes back, even if it's against like Seattle or Pittsburgh. But to come back in Houston against the Texans after you asked out, you embarrassed them, like it's just Although maybe they'll be cheering because I got a bunch of draft picks for you, and they didn't have to deal with you being the person you were. So who knows?
Yeah, and really, those draft picks look even better now.
Yeah.
Because Jacoby Brissett's going to be playing quarterback for 10 games or 11 games.
And I was listening to...
And the team is in, they're in upheaval anyhow.
Well, this is a report, because I know whenever you talk Browns, and we'll get to them eventually, but quarterback in general, like Jimmy G is the guy out there people talk about. But I was listening to Fred McAfee, who's a Pittsburgh person, played for the Colts. But he was reporting that Chris Sims, I know there's a lot of names I'm throwing out, but I just want to get the story accurate. And Chris Sims is Kyle Shanahan's college roommate. They're really good friends. And basically he was reporting that the problem with Jimmy G is that he's not very available. That he disappears. For as much as he is likable, that he's had receivers in the offseason try to get in touch with him. They can't get in touch with him. Coaches can't get in touch with him. And some of the hesitation with bringing him in is that he's just not, all about football all the time. Like he goes off on vacation and he's on vacation. His cell phone's not on. He's not coming in. He's not meeting receivers for extra work. So they're saying some of the hesitation with the teams wanting to commit any money or picks to him is that, what am I bringing into my locker room?
Plus, you don't want to pay for him now.
No.
I mean, you got to wait and see, as the 49ers get more desperate toward closer to cut-down day.
Yeah. And again, I think teams like the Texans and Seattle, who we already talked about, I don't think they want to win. I think they see 6 first-round picks at quarterback. Maybe that becomes more like an elite 3.
They're not going to give up a first round. Nobody's going to give up a first round.
No, but I mean, I don't think they want to lose, win 3 more games with Jimmy G and all of a sudden miss out on the guy they really like,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that are very content bringing out the team they're bringing out. Because Jimmy G's not, I shouldn't say that because he seems to have brought 2 teams to the Super Bowl. But presumably, Jimmy G's not bringing one of your bad teams to a Super Bowl, just giving you a few extra wins. And if you're one of those bad teams that needs a quarterback, that may not be what you want.
No. I mean, why? If you're the Texans, I wouldn't trade for him. I play with what I got. and look at the draft picks I'm getting from Browns, look at my own draft picks, and start rebuilding that team.
Yeah. Well, now we have an interesting division to talk about, the NFC South. Right?
Yeah.
I think we
Two
both...
teams that'll be above 500, two teams that won't even come sniffing it.
Odds are no, unless you're a big Baker Mayfield guy.
Baker's going to win. Well, let's just start. You want to start at the bottom or at the top?
Let's start at the bottom. And I think we both have the Falcons at the very bottom, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you're rolling out Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder as your quarterback. I think we don't really need to go much further than that.
No, I think the Falcons are rebuilding. I mean, I feel bad for Pitts.
Yeah.
Who's lost his quarterback, and who knows what's going to happen with him in terms of receptions and everything else. But yeah, I just don't see the Falcons going anywhere.
No, and they have Drake London, but I think he was already a little banged up in preseason. And again, Marcus Mariota, when he plays well, it's great, but that's maybe a third of the time, and then the other third of the time he's injured, and the other third of the time he's bad. So,
what's interesting is that whenever we have these quarterback debates when they're coming out of college, 1 versus 2.
Yeah.
I mean, Marcus Mariota is Brady Quinn or whoever else you want to lump in that group. I mean, they're all they were drafted high, but they weren't all that.
No. And they should. I mean, you only hit, I think it's like 30-something% of first-round quarterbacks, and hit is relative too. But I mean, as far as guys that have become starters, regular starters in the league, is not that high, which is pretty crazy, right?
No. And he's been around a few teams now, and it just hasn't been his thing. Hasn't worked out.
No.
And now he's quarterback. He's the starting quarterback probably because of default. But I mean, I would not be surprised if 6-7 games in the season you see Desmond Ridder.
No, because Desmond Ridder, outside of that Alabama game, which I think really hurt his draft stock, and that you could argue is less about him and more about 1,000 5-star recruits on Alabama versus 1,000 3-star recruits on Cincinnati. At some point, you can't compete. You don't have the horses to compete. But I feel like that knocked him down quite a bit.
I agree. I mean, because that was not a good matchup.
No, and he looked really bad, and I think, we see it all the time. Like, if you have the last thing people see, as much as they want to look at your full career, that's your chance on the national stage. That's what the owner watches. That's just not the scouts. That's everybody seeing it, and it didn't look good for him. So I assume we both have...
All right, so then Carolina Panthers are our third team.
Yeah. And again, we have Christian McCaffrey, who again is healthy for the third consecutive season.
And the number 2 pick on most fantasy teams, so I don't know. I mean, I just don't... if I have the number 2 pick in my draft and he's there, I'm not taking him.
No. I mean, he's gotten season-ending injuries the past 2 seasons. And I just...
And he gets dinged up too much.
Yeah.
Even when he's not season-ending, he's dinged up too much.
And
so
I know
he's... Go there, but he's a great ball player.
He is. And
they use him well. And I actually think he could even be better with Baker.
Well, it's hard to imagine he wouldn't be better with anybody. I mean, you had washed up Cam Newton, you've had the poo-poo platter, and then you had Sam Darnold. So he hasn't really been playing with a murderer's row of quarterbacks in his career.
No.
And while we're talking about Baker, did you see what Odell tweeted out?
No.
He tweeted out a very nice, go for it. He was very positive. And people pointed out that Odell, technically, Odell never said anything bad about Baker.
No, he didn't.
Like his dad, obviously.
His dad did, yeah, but he didn't.
Yeah, and his dad was more just showing you video of here's my son wide open again, here's my son wide open again. But, and Odell, I mean, he and Odell went on vacation together before the season that, ended up being a terrible season. But, I think Baker's got a lot of people rooting for him, a lot of people in his corner. And he's probably an upgrade over Sam Darnold, so.
I agree. I think he's definitely an upgrade. I mean, he is intense, and he'll bring fire to that team, and he'll be, he'll do a lot. But they're still going to be a third-place team.
Yeah. And if you're Baker, I mean, we obviously have never met Baker. At least I haven't. I think he came in, he was an underdog to get to Oklahoma, an underdog, become a Heisman candidate, and then he was the number one overall pick. He was doing all these commercials. And I think now that he's had, both humble pie and been knocked down, I think a motivated Baker might be the best Baker you can have.
Yeah.
And he is, last year people do point out, like he had a separated shoulder the entire season. Not his throwing arm, but
he should have shut it down.
He should have shut it down. Because even if it's your non-throwing shoulder, if you have a separated shoulder on the other side, that's not going to be it's going to be painful as hell, and there's not much you can do to continue to play that way. Sure. I still don't, like you said, I still don't think they win. I still don't think they're 500, but
no, I think they're 7-9, and 7-9, or I'm sorry, 8-9, or even 9-7.
Yeah,
or 9.
9-8.
9-8.
Yeah, it's tough doing the math now.
It's hard to get used to that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I was like, no, 8-8 was 500. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they go 9-8, to me that's a big accomplishment.
It is, and I assume that also comes with the caveat that Christian McCaffrey stayed healthy for 14 of the 17 games he was on the field, because he is that big of a difference maker.
So we'll see where that goes. Our number 2 team, you and I are in agreement on, is the Buccaneers.
It is.
You got a coaching change, even though he's still on the staff. But the other guy that wanted the job still on your staff. I don't ever think that's a good situation.
No, never.
I think when you have the runner-up still as part of the organization, it's not good.
No.
So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to say, is Tom really all in this year?
I think.
And I don't know that.
No. I think
I want to believe he is, and I want to, I never bet against him anymore. But I think it's going to be tougher this year. I think this is going to be a really difficult year.
Well, whether that was all a ploy to get his coach fired or not, like, he did retire for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, however long it was. Like, he did retire, so that was on his mind. Rob Gronkowski's not walking back through the door, even late in the season. I think he's pretty much closed the door on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has too.
There's probably not another, and keep in mind, during the Super Bowl run, crazy Antonio Brown was a helpful part of that Super Bowl run. And he's not coming back, or I don't think you're going to get another guy like that who just pops out,
Well, unless it's Beckham.
Yeah, you lost your starting center for the year already. The rumor is that Tom Brady...
The offensive line is not as good as it was last year.
No. The rumor is that Brady is filming The Masked Singer, and that's why he's not at camp right now in preseason. I don't know if that's true, and we don't know, He could be getting his blood spun or doing some weird avocado...
Yeah, it's definitely my landing spot for Odell, though.
Yeah?
As I've thought through this. Yep, it's my landing spot.
I think, bizarrely, if he is a free agent 9 weeks in, I could easily see him becoming the 4th wide receiver on the team that I picked to win the Super Bowl in the first part, and the team I'm picking to win the division. I could see him going back home with Tyrann Mathieu, Jarvis Landry, and helping the Saints get a final push.
Yeah, I don't see him going back with Landry again.
No? They're really good buddies and friends.
I know, but it just didn't work out that well in Cleveland.
Well, no.
So I would not want to be the guy bringing that together or suggesting it. But it could happen for the other reasons you said.
I mean, obviously,
I think he'll end up with the Buccaneers.
I mean, I think he's again on a 1-year prove-it deal because he's coming off a big injury.
No question.
And I think
that's why, and I think the Bucs will be ready to spend some money.
Yeah.
Because they know they're not going to get Gronk, and know they don't have Antonio Brown. For all the reasons you said, he's my pick to go there. So there'll be a situation we'll have to watch play out.
Yeah. And obviously the Rams will still be in play because that's where he was last year. Was very happy. The Packers with their all-rookie receivers we'll talk about in a couple weeks. I mean, there's spots for him. Assuming he's ready to go in week 11 or 12. So.
Well, let's talk about our winner then, the Saints.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of talked about them at the beginning, so I'll let you solo this one.
Yeah. I think that Jameis was really off to a really, really good start last year before he got hurt. I think he was playing better than he had played. He wasn't making the mistakes. He's always thrown the touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's always been able to move the team. He just made a lot of mistakes. And I think last year he had eliminated a lot of those mistakes. And I thought the team was playing well. But I also agree with you. the coaching transition's not that big of a deal to me. You've got plenty of talent there. You brought in some real leaders. I think they're going to win the division. I think they're going to win by no less than 2 games.
Yeah, I think the Bucks are in danger of being like one of the biggest fallers this year, just because of all the things. And then it hasn't gotten him yet, but eventually, Father Time will snag him and Brady a little bit, right? At some point,
I mean,
inevitably.
It's inevitable, but we say that every year.
I know, but I feel like, it's like maybe this year with all his commercials and his retirement and coming out of retirement and new coach, we'll see.
Here's what I say. In any other year, Tom Brady would not have even thought about taking this time off.
No.
The fact he could think about it tells me there's a piece of him that's not there. And so we'll have to see.
Well, it seems like, with his, I know he's always done commercials, but he's on a much more mainstream commercial. And it seems like he's really into the documentary and the time about Tom and some of the things he's really trying to get into social media as an old man, which is sort of weird when he's on TikTok and places like that.
His launch of his apparel lines, everything. He's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, and it seems like it's a much more focused on what I'm doing when I'm done playing football for the first time ever, as opposed to...
Yeah.
And again, it's not to say he hasn't been doing other stuff otherwise, but like I said, it's even like, him, doing these, clearly somebody wrote them for him and is filming him during it TikToks that are pretty cringe, but, good for him. I know he's got a lot of followers because he's Tom Brady, but it's pretty bad content, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see. But definitely think the Saints are going to win the division. And, we'll talk about going further, in a later show, but definitely picked them to win the division.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, like we talked offline, we put 2 divisions together. They're absolutely the 2 worst divisions in the NFL.
Yeah, they're not great.
They're just terrible.
There's a lot of teams that'll be picking. You could have 5 of these 8 teams picking in the top 10, and you wouldn't be shocked, right?
Right.
Atlanta, Carolina, Houston, Tennessee, and you wouldn't be. And if you throw in Jacksonville, I think you can. I don't. Like I said, we both think they're going to be a big, much improved team, but
they have a long way to go. I mean, what were they last year? 1-15 or 2-14?
Yeah. So a much improved team. They win 6 games. They pick 9th.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Well, I want to give a shout out to Albert Pujols, who now has 692 home runs.
Which is very nice to see.
And I would love to see him get 8 more over the course of the rest of the season to get to 700.
I would too. That'd be a very nice thing. Is he saying he's coming back, or is this his last year?
No, this was his swan song. I think this is it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
He wanted to come back and retire as a Cardinal.
Even if
but it's funny, he's having a better year than his last year with the Angels.
Yeah. Even if I'm a pitcher towards the end of this season, I'm serving him up a couple of...
Oh, I am too.
Watermelons, or what do you want to call it? Because I'm just going to be like, you know what? Albert Pujols has been great for the game. He's been an all-time great player. I'd love to see him get to 700. And I know it sounds silly because 697 is just as good, but somehow that 7 in the front just makes it, Yep. Well, you had some food moment, right?
Yeah, I got a food moment. Friday, I went to BJ's Alabama Barbecue on South Mabry.
In Florida, for the record.
Here in Tampa.
Yeah.
And it was great. I really enjoyed it. This big smoker was out front, just like at Al's. And so you pull in the parking lot, and that smoker, all this smoke is pouring out of the smoker. But as much as I like Al's Finger Licking Barbecue, which I've talked about before on the show, this was better. It was better quality, and I think the sides were much better. So I think when you combine those things, and I didn't have the ribs, but the ribs looked pretty good. But I had pulled pork and I had chicken, and both of those things were outstanding. The guy I went with had chicken and beef, and he said the beef was great. and there was a lot of people. It was full. There's a bunch of Army guys eating there, and that's always a good sign.
Oh yeah.
But it was good. My only complaint was that you got a little bit of sauce on your food, and you had to pay extra to get extra sauce.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was tremendous. I really, really enjoyed it.
That's a tough spot for the barbecue place because if you don't charge, people just dump the sauce on their plate and probably end up throwing away jars of sauce every day. But when you do charge,
Yeah.
there's got to be some sort of happy medium where it's like you get.
Yeah, it's just, you could give me a little Dixie cup full or something. You don't have to give me the container.
Right.
So I don't get totally carried away, but I'd like to have a little bit more.
Always. Well, we both also have the same entertainment moment. Or one of the same entertainment moments this week, right?
Yeah, Blackbird was really, really good.
Yeah. 6 episodes. It is a full 6 hours of show. Like, every episode, I think, was like an hour and 2 minutes, hour and 1 minute. Like, it wasn't like the...
There was one that was like 57 minutes. There was another one that was like an hour and 8 or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I think
was full.
It's a full...
And it was really, the characters were good. The actors were good. The storyline was good. There wasn't a throwaway episode, which I always appreciate.
Yeah. No, it almost felt like there wasn't going to be enough time to get everything done, like, despite the full 6 hours.
Yeah.
And all three, obviously the 2 leads were phenomenal. Just phenomenal. And Ray Liotta, and I think maybe his final performance, was also really good in this show.
As was Greg Kinnear.
Yeah. I mean, nobody...
Yeah, the acting was really good all the way. And who was the woman, Jay? She was really good, too.
Yeah, I feel bad that I can't remember anybody's name outside of Ray Liotta, but if you watch Blackbird on Apple TV+, it's a really good 6 hours, and it shockingly is... I mean, I thought it was like loosely like Hollywood, where they're like based on a true story, but when they show you the pictures at the end and you read about the case, this was legitimately based on a true story.
Yeah.
And it worked.
It was good. And I thought Ray Liotta was really, really good.
Yeah. And I have 2 retro because I'm rewatching 2 shows right now.
Okay.
In anticipation of House of the Dragon, because Maria has never seen Game of Thrones. We're most of the way through season 3. And again, I know just based on when I watched it the first time, somewhere around season 5, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed in the writing. But these first 3 seasons are absolutely incredible. Just so good. I've been just as compelled as I was the first time, and it's been really good to watch. And then sitcom-wise, I always like having a sitcom in my life, and I've been rewatching It's Always Funny in Philadelphia. And it is every bit as good as I remember.
You've always loved that show.
And it's still on,
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for the people listening, it is, 4 rotten people. I guess 5 when you count Danny DeVito. It's, 5 miserable, awful people. So, you're not... Because I've listened to their podcast a little bit, and they always they're like, we're tired of doing the caveat, but they're like, you realize these aren't good people we're portraying.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people get caught out I know some people don't like that sort of humor, whether you're talking about Curb or Seinfeld or lots of other shows where it's, you're not watching the nicest people in the world. But granted, they're not succeeding on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia either. It's just, you're watching horrible people do horrible things in a very funny way.
Yes.
But that's been on Hulu, and like I said, I just like having a sitcom just to work in. And that's worked for me.
And did you have a food moment?
That's a tough one. Yes and no. So we have been getting nonstop ads for Little Caesars on our Hulu for some reason. And we were running errands, and we were next to a Little Caesars, and we got Little Caesars.
No, Jason, tell me no.
We did.
Say it ain't so, Jay.
We did. And I'll say this.
You're killing me.
I know. It's super cheap.
Well, yeah, it is.
It's like ridiculously cheap. Like, it's the Taco Bell of pizza. We got a Detroit style pizza and a thin crust pizza, and it was less than $20. And I will say this, of the bad shitty chains, if the top 4 chains in the country are Domino's, Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, and Papa John's, it's the best one.
Oh, you're killing me.
It is. They got the curled up pepperonis, Dad. They got the curled up pepperonis.
Yeah.
I like the curled up pepperoni. on bad pizza. I mean, it is bad. Like, it's as bad as the other ones, but when Papa John's is charging you the same kind of money you're going to pay at like John's of Bleecker or a really good pizza place, that's trash pizza. And like, if I'm going to eat crappy pizza, I'd rather pay less for it, I guess.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean,
I did have a bad order from Goat Belly, but it wasn't Goat Belly's fault.
Oh.
It was the vendor that I chose.
Oh.
So I got Kane's Donuts from Saugus, Massachusetts. And they were just big, heavy, two gummy donut.
Oh.
They weren't really good.
I have
the
noticed.
only one, we had like 6 different varieties, 2 of each, and the only one that was good was a Boston cream.
Huh.
Other than that, the jelly was not good. The sugar wasn't good. The chocolate, none of them were good. So that was a major mistake, but definitely not Gold Belly's fault. They came when they were supposed to come, and they were exactly as advertised. They just were like big, heavy donuts.
I've noticed.
And I like a light donut.
That's why I love the Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
It's like biting into air, except it is a ton of sugar and it'll give you diabetes. But I have noticed with the donut, because donuts are obviously still very popular. Not that they ever haven't been, but I feel like there's way more like gourmet donut shops. There's a lot of aesthetically pleasing donuts that aren't very good. Like, there's too much in the presentation and not enough in the actual,
Yeah, I mean, we're getting carried away with all the flavors and everything, but the donut still has to be good.
Yeah.
That still has to be good.
Oh, agreed. Well, I hope to bring a real food moment next week and not a gross one, but, it happens. What are you going to do?
Yeah, we'll see. And so which divisions we going to do next week is going to be
The East.
The East, the least. But maybe not this year, because we did the least today, if you think about it.
I think so, yeah.
So the NFC and AFC East next week. And I can already tell you, if you're a Jets or a Giants fan, you're not going to be happy with what I have to say.
Well, I'll give you a little hint. You might be slightly hopeful. Not that you're going to win a lot of games, but I've got some positive things to say about those two teams.
All right. All right, everybody, have a good week. Enjoy the rest of the Little League World Series.